Welcome to another Cardano update. Like always, make sure to check out our YouTube memberships and our Patreon if you want access to all of our charts and if you want access to our daily Discord updates. So unfortunately, the market situation is not looking the best. As you can see on the 4-hour chart, we invalidated the 1-2 setup and we are already at the much bigger 0.786 support level for the AB on the chart, meaning that if we drop below it, there is a chance that maybe this entire AB to the upside is gonna get invalidated and we're probably gonna get into a bear market after that, because this could always be counted as some kind of 1-2 setup or an AB structure for the much bigger ABC of the second wave move down right here, meaning that this was actually not the low of the second wave move down, and we could even drop to the much bigger 0.618 support level, which is gonna be at 13 cents. So that is the worst case scenario, but like I said, as long as we stay above that low over there, then you could say that maybe the third wave of the third wave is still gonna happen, but only after Bitcoin manages to find a bottom. Also, I read a comment, I believe yesterday, which said that maybe this structure is actually a 1-2-3 setup for a much bigger first, and right now we could be in an ABC structure. I don't think that's the case, but even if that's the case, you have to understand, even if we drop below this 0.786 support level, if you actually want to get a bounce and if you believe that this is actually a 1-2 setup instead, we would have to bounce at about 32 cents, which would be the last support level for this supposed 1-2 setup, and breaking below that is pretty much gonna suggest that maybe the AB structure is gonna get invalidated, and this was actually maybe some kind of ABC for the B wave, and right now, like I said, we could be in the C wave. Going to the Bitcoin chart, as you can see, it's currently at $82,000. It's extremely oversold on the daily, and matter of fact, it has not been this oversold since I believe August of 2023, and back then, as you can see, Bitcoin was at about, let's say, $25,000. So obviously this is looking good, but if you look at the weekly chart right now, it's not looking too great, because there's a very small chance that we actually manage to close above $100,000 by the end of the week. I believe today is Friday, so I don't think we're gonna get back to 100K, meaning that we could actually be in a bear market right now. But in my opinion, even if we are in a bear market, I don't think it's gonna last too long, because if you look at the RSI, I talked about this on the Discord server already, but the RSI right now on the weekly is extremely close to being oversold. And this is very important because Bitcoin has not gotten to the oversold territory on the weekly that many times in the past, and matter of fact, I want to take a look at what happened each time we actually got to the oversold territory, and I want to start with what happened back here in this area, I believe in 2022. As you can see, we got to the oversold territory, and that was a pretty significant low. After that, Bitcoin went from $17,000 all the way up to about $24,000, and it pretty much tested the bull market support band, and obviously in the long term it still went a bit lower, but it did not really go that much lower, because this low, like I said, was 17,000 and the next one was like 15,000. So this right here was a very important low, and it only happened after we got to the oversold territory, and the exact same thing I believe happened back here in 2018 as well. This was the 2018 bear market, and getting to the oversold territory pretty much told us that the bear market low was in, and then after that Bitcoin went to new all-time highs. Now before this it was back in 2014, and again getting to the oversold territory got us this low over here, and after that, as you can see, we went to all-time highs, and before this it was when Bitcoin was pretty much created over here. As you can see, we were oversold, and then after that we went up quite a lot. So getting to the oversold territory right now and closing at the oversold territory is probably gonna find us a low, because after that the price might get a move to the upside. Also, please understand that in the previous 3 bear markets, it took us about, let's say, 8 to even 15 months to get to the oversold territory, and in this cycle we almost did it in less than a month. So if we actually get there, there is a chance that maybe this cycle is gonna overextend, and there is a chance that we go up for about 6 months after this, because if you take a look at what happened after each time we got a correction on the cycle, for example back here, after we found that low over there, the price went up for about 182 days, and then here the exact same thing happened. We found a low and then it went up for about 6 months again, and this time this year again it happened again. We got a low over there, and then after that we went up for 6 months, meaning that if we find a low right now and if we get to the oversold territory right there on the weekly RSI, it could be good, because maybe this could mean that Bitcoin might go up for the next 6 months like it did these previous 3 times. I want to also talk about Ethereum for a second, because on the daily, as you can see, we are below the 0.618 support level, and if this wave count is correct, and if we are actually in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 setup, then I think this is actually a diagonal, which is not to be trusted, but you have to understand, as I said yesterday, maybe this was the first 1-2 2, and this was the third wave, and right now we're in the fourth wave. To confirm that, we are still in a bull market on this chart, we have to stay above that low over there, which I believe is at about $2,100. As long as we stay above that, I think there is still a chance that maybe we still get the fifth wave, but you have to be careful because, dropping below that low would pretty much tell us that the, top is already in. Now, if you look at the weekly chart, on the Ethereum chart, and even on the Cardano chart, they are currently at the trend line on the RSI, which I have mentioned many times in the last couple of weeks, and if we manage to actually close at the trend line, there is a chance that maybe Ethereum and the altcoins actually get a move next week, because usually when the Ethereum chart or the Cardano chart finds a low at the trend line on the weekly, that's pretty much a significant low, because here, for example, I believe back in August, as you can see, we got to the trend line and then we went up quite a lot in the short term, and that's, I believe, exactly what happened back in this area. We went down quite a lot and then we got to the trend line and then we got, to these highs over here. But this is also what happened, I believe, back in the 2017 cycle, or no, in the previous cycle. We got to the trend line over here 2 times, and then after that, that's when we got all-time highs. And it also happened before the 2017 cycle in this area. So I think if we manage to close above these levels, it could mean that the altcoins could get a move to the upside next week and Ethereum could start breaking all-time highs after that. I also want to show you something that I think is very interesting on the Bitcoin chart. I briefly talked about it yesterday, but I want to talk about it today. So here in the 2017 cycle, after Bitcoin found a top in December, this is when the altcoin season actually started, and during this time, as you can see, Bitcoin went down quite a lot. It went down about 70%, but if you take a look at what Ethereum was doing during that time, it was actually going up and it was actually breaking all-time highs. And why was it doing that? Because during that time, the Bitcoin dominance chart was still not at bear market lows. When Bitcoin topped, Bitcoin dominance was at 70%, and as you can see after that, we went from 70% all the way down to 35%, and this move happened in 1 month. And why is this relevant? Because this move happened in December of the post-halving year. So I think if we are doing exactly what we did back in 2017, then Bitcoin could theoretically continue to go down for the next couple of weeks, but maybe, and just maybe, Ethereum could get a move to the upside during that time, because that's pretty much exactly what happened back in 2017. Bitcoin, like I said, it found a top, and during that time, that's when Ethereum was going up because Bitcoin dominance was still at cycle highs, and right now Bitcoin dominance is again at cycle highs. And speaking of Bitcoin dominance, it's about to test the moving average right there on the weekly RSI, and I talked about this way too many times, but each time we break below the moving average there, it's a good sign because that's when we usually get a move to the downside. For example, the last time it happened was back here, I believe this year. We broke below the moving average on the weekly RSI, and that's what gave us a move to the downside. So if we break below it right now, I think this could lead to a much bigger move to the downside, which could lead to an Ethereum pump and even a Cardano pump. And speaking of Cardano, going to the weekly chart right now, like I mentioned, we are exactly at the trend line, and if we manage to close above it, then I think there is a chance that next week we could get a pretty significant move to the upside. But please understand, even if that scenario does not play out, I think at some point Bitcoin is still gonna get to the bull market support band, because usually before a real bear market starts, Bitcoin needs an A B structure and then it can start the C wave to the downside. So the B wave to the bull market support band is probably still gonna happen at some point because it always happens. And again, we are oversold on pretty much every single chart, so I think it's only a matter of time until we get a move to the upside. But if it does end up dropping to, let's say, $75,000 or even less, I'm not gonna be surprised, because we kind of need to get to the oversold territory, and if we do, I think that could be very good. Obviously, people are disappointed right now because Cardano is going down quite a lot, but you cannot really blame Cardano for this because the entire market is going down, not just Cardano. But for the time being, as long as we manage to stay above support, I'm still gonna be bullish because we are still, not invalidating the setup. So as long as the setup is still valid, I'm still gonna be bullish. And other than that, I want to talk about something else for a second. I talked about this yesterday, but the USDT dominance chart is overbought on the weekly chart, and if we manage to close in the overbought territory, I think next week could be good, because the last time this happened was back here, I believe in 2022, and then after we closed in the overbought territory, it went down about 40%, and during this time, this is when the altcoins and even Bitcoin went up quite a lot. And as you can see from this chart, each time it gets to the overbought territory on the weekly, that's when it gets a correction. And if this gets a correction, it means that people are going to be starting to buy altcoins and even Bitcoin, and that could lead to a move to the upside. So I think we could see this go up until Sunday, and then we close in that area, and then next week we could get a drop, which could lead to a very big move on the altcoin charts and even on the Ethereum chart, but Bitcoin on the other hand, it could go a bit lower just because it's extremely close to being oversold right there on the weekly. So this is how I see this playing out, but obviously I could be wrong about it, so make sure to do some more research and make sure to look at other videos as well from other content creators, because every single one of us has a different opinion, and maybe some of us, are going to be wrong, but maybe some of us are going to be right. So definitely look in multiple directions so you can get an idea of what could happen. But so that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to check out our YouTube memberships and our Patreon if you want access to all of our charts, and if you want access to our daily Discord updates. Like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.